Onward and upward. All right. Okay, so I'm almost at an hour, and I think at this point I've established that I am doing a part 4 video. I think I've made it known I am doing current conditions, and I don't think I've talked once about the current conditions. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is going to show you the picture and then read from my notes if we could. Okay, how about that? This work? Boop. All right. Okay, there we go. Bing. All right, hold please. Okay, I rearranged myself. Where was I? Um, it's like writing my name on the exam and then writing the question out. Like to answer it, I'm gonna write out the question as it's on the board. So I've spent an hour just checking my exam book, writing out the question. Yeah, I am here in the essay hall taking this essay, which is blah blah blah. All right, oh, time to start. Oh, all right. Yeah. There you have it. All right. So the current conditions. This is. Wait. Hold on. I gotta like this. Bam. I gotta like that. All right. So I like this. All right. This is from again. This from the my Facebook group, the Shimmer resonances and other atmospheric electromagnetics. I'm Verdi Arbusto. I'm a hot freaking mess right now. And I thank you for being here. It's Monday the 9th. It's like 9:12 p.m. Eastern time, my time. So all right, so the 22nd, we're talking about, I'm the deep dive guy. My stuff goes weeks. I watch these stuff for weeks and weeks, and I give a running tally on them. All right. And so that's why I put up there in or down there in the description, the dates that, from the 22nd to like, 2 years later or some shit. Like, I do that because it's like that's how long I've been kind of processing this and watching it for, right? And I am the deep dive guy, and that's what it means, for me. That's in practice. Um, that's part of the principles of this is to keep observing, just keep continuously observing, right? You know. Maybe you'll see something fascinating. All right. So I'm going to read from my notes here and I'll do the there. Sorry. So uh, on the 22nd, that's what this is. And there's a visual, there's the picture that goes with it, the links to the pictures on Facebook and WordPress and everything. So hopefully you'll have already kind of clicked on that and seen it, whatever. But, the print it's kind of tiny here. And all right, you can't really see it. I'm looking at it. And it's like, all right, it's tiny. This is the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th of last month, right? This is what we're doing. This is March. Uh, um, Although I think it should be April. I'm thinking. Is it March? It, duh. I'm spacing out. Yes, it is from April. The Aronmixx is from March. Sorry, I'm getting confused. All right. So not all there. I'm here because I'm not all there. All right. So this is from April. All right. January, February, March, April. All right. The 22nd of April. We're at peaks of, we're here. This is 48.4, and this is 60 right here. This is 36. This is 25.2. This is 13.6. All right. So there, the the peak was at about 50, and then it dropped down to 37, 38, and then so this happened. It starts at 9 in the morning. 9 local times, 9 in the morning. Then you have 10, 11, 12. So we're talking about uh 17, 18, like 19. All right, so 19. So we're talking about, this is 10 hours, but this is the middle of the day. You got to remember that. It's kind of when we expect things to be spiking. People, a lot of times when they're looking at this, they they just assume some things, or they just naturally freak out because maybe they're prone to that, and that's a thing too, But they see the spikes and oh, the Schumann resonances are spiking. It's like, well, the amplitude is spiking, yes, right, but that's not the Schumann resonances. The amplitude is coming from excess lightning, right? The Schumann resonances do not spike. They are not spiking. That is not what is spiking. It is amplitude bursts, amplitude in the atmosphere. It is intensity, it's power, it's decibels. It's decibels of picoelectric volts, okay? That you got to understand what you're looking at. It's not the rising of the Schumann resonances. They didn't go crazy all of a sudden. People look at that and that's what they believe and that's what they see, but that's what this whiteout condition is. You can let me do this here. What the whiteout condition is, uh, when it shows you that, is it's the excess voltage, and that's not taking over the Schumann resonances. There's a lot of stuff that's not, that people believe that it is, because they're not trained to look at the spectrogram and understand that it's compiling two sources and coming up with a vector. It's a different vector altogether, right? It's just that's what's important to understand, for people to understand when they're looking at that's not like an ocean wave, like all of it coming in. That's not what the Schumann resonances are, right? It's you're getting this compiled picture of the Schumann resonances that are based on a compiled, a plotted, a manufactured image in the spectrogram. Right? It's important to understand that. All right. So here we are at this on the 22nd, right? We have the whole day. Okay. So we have an active day in and this is lightning. You have to remember this lightning, or atmospheric transfer from up to down, or down to up, from the earth to the ionosphere downwards. Okay, this is predominant. This is a predominant activity, with the exception of uh, the 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 ionosphere, the magnetosphere, getting strong, like a sunspot activity. Right, solar, like sunspots will cause an increase in the Schumann resonances. Right, so as it goes by, right? That's during the sun solar activity, right? It's like people are frequently looking at solar bursts and all of that, and that does some stuff, yes. But there are studies, the Rhode Island Times series, for example, talks about it's evident, it's obvious, you can see it. The Schumann resonance increases, follows, that's part of the diurnal cycle, is sunspot activity. So we're having sunspot activities, and I can go over there, I think, and show you. Hold on, maybe I should. All right, so this is from currently now. This is spaceweather.news, currently.now. You can see solar stuff going on right here, directly right at us. And if you compare, see, I'm off script right now. But you compare right at the moment, see, there's nothing going on right here, right at this is the most recent one we have right here. You see, okay, this we're talking about, uh, uh, this is fairly recent right here. Okay, so there should be something, but there is upticks in solar activity. Okay, there is at that type of a connection with the Earth and the ionosphere that you'll see influences of it. Okay, this is at 56, but this is during the day, though. You got to look. This is during the day. This is during the day. All right. You get bursts. You get stronger activity during the day. You got to remember that. All right. All right. Back on script. Back on script. All right. So um this is where we're uh, pointing out that during the day, there were peaks at 50 and then 30, and then it shot up to 60. All right, and this is the decibels of pico electron volts. Okay, you got to remember that. That's how to read this. Decibel is a pico electron volts. These are amplitude spikes or amplitude peaks that seen as vertical downward pointing spikes on the Schumann resonance. Right, so that's them going from the top down. All right. Essentially, it's 9 to 6 p.m. Or 18 hours local time, which is the middle of the day over there. Okay. Um, that's the day into the evening. All right. And you see the same thing. That's just part of diurnal variation, as you're going to get more activity during the daytime. Right. This activity is not just white mode one, but it extends across the spectrum evenly. All right. So I talk about this requited and unrequited. All right. So the white, the yellow, you look at the wave forms, the wave patterns, they're identical. All right. They're a matched set. Okay. And if you compare them, the they're not doing exactly the same thing, like word for word or pound for pound or ounce for ounce or whatever. It's not exactly the same thing from amplitude to the quality or from the electric to the magnetic, but in some cases you can see that there is a match. See, there's a spike in the red and green here. There's a spike here. All right. And there's a tiny spike there, all right, not much there in the yellow mode, all right. But across the amplitude, all the amplitudes, 1, 2, 3, 4, they all match up like a hand in glove, for the nested dolls, if you will, all right. So they all match up. Uh, so you don't see, uh, you don't see, significant electric to magnetic activity. And it matters because you're trying to figure out what's going on. Where is the source from? What is it? Like there's two different antennas. You got to remember that. One is the dipole. There's no Schumann resonance antenna. There's two types of antennas. One that's used for the electric. One there's the magnetic induction coil. All right. So the magnetic induction coil is on the ground, while the electric side, the amplitude, is in the air. All right. They're physically located in different places. I mean, like one's right at the base of the other one, but the one is, I've shown you pictures, one is, like 30, 40 feet in the air, depending on where you are, and maybe more, like it's a different, like there's a difference of height between one and the other. All right. Just remember that. All right. We expect to see, what did I say here? We expect to see little to no activity on the graph between 22 to 6 local time. So during the day, all right. There we go. That's a better picture. All right. So you don't expect to see anything during the nighttime, right? I keep pointing this out. During the day, you're going to see heavier activity uh, than the nighttime, diurnal variation. All right. So that's when the ionosphere goes to sleep. Essentially, it's on the other side of the sun, goes to sleep, takes a rest, right? So that's when you don't expect to see much in just those 6 to 8 hours in there. All right, just a general condition of anywhere that you're measuring these things from on Earth, right? Sun rotates, right? Except for maybe up in the Antarctic, the Arctic or Antarctic, which I forget, mix them two, but perhaps that. But that's a different set of conditions up there altogether. All right. So then the next day, you got the 23rd and 24th flat lines, the amplitude flat lines. That's what I love showing you this, so that you can see, like, all right, what they call a flat line. What they call a flat line is a data void. This is essentially a flat line condition. Not much going on, just a few microvolts difference, picovolts difference between one and the other. So it it's interesting to see. All right, so that's what a flat line condition is. All right, so I said this is calm electrically, so all enough of the activity is magnetic in origin, and you can see the next panel, the quality. All right, so all the activity that's happening is in the bands, right? The horizontal bands. That there's not spikes like earlier, right? So well, I'm showing you, pointing out once again how to match up on the spectrogram. What's what? The horizontal bands are the quality, and that's this down here, right? You follow what's happening on the horizontal bands and the quality and the frequency. Okay, quality and the frequency both go together when you're looking at the spectrogram. It's important to understand. You have two factors that go into the horizontal bands, which are the Schumann resonances. Those are the actual resonances. These are the Schumann resonances. This is the fundamental waves which propagate. Schumann resonances don't propagate. Frequency here is the wavelength. Okay, I've talked about this before. Frequency is wavelength measurement from peak to peak. Okay, and you got to remember, hertz is cycles per second. Okay, frequency is peak to peak. You can remember that, like alternating current is hertz cycles, cycle moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Like a piston is like a cycle, right? Goes up and down, up and down, up and down, if you will, for analogies. All right. Frequency is peak to peak. The peak to peak measurement down here of frequency, this is in kilometers, or thousands, actually, thousands of kilometers. This is 8,000 kilometers. All right. So these are big waves. These are big waves. The lowest are the lowest of the low. You got to remember, these are 0.3 to 40 hertz. Like that's the range we're talking about, where the Schumann resonances are. They're hum at that frequency. All right. So, all right. So it would seem to be the next couple of days would seem to be uneventful, but you see the magnetic, which is Teslas, picoteslas, and as you have again the solar activity, sunspots, it forces it forces this issue. It gives you, activity in the Schumann resonances, not necessarily on the electric side, but on the magnetic side, okay, which is down on the ground, okay, hugging the ground, as it were. They put the electric side up in the air because that's where that activity is, up there in the air. The spectrogram is giving you a composite of both of those two antennas together. It's not one, the spectrogram is not one Schumann resonance antenna. Just please understand that. There's two different types of antennae, as I've said earlier, that give you these images. All right. So, and you see, you look at the actual number. This is 4.9, and on the quality, it's picoteslas. Okay, this is not. You see Q. That's not Q factor. That's a different thing. It's related. The atmosphere itself is the Q factor. This is the quality because the atmosphere is the dampening, is the dampener of the resonance, right? And that's the resonator. All right. This is complicated. People say, "Oh, the Q factor." This is quality, but I'll tell you that's how it fits into how the quality fits into the Q factor. Right? It's a lot to it. It's technical stuff, right? Q. Where were the Q's, right? Q's. Excuse me. Oh, XQ. XQs. I'll have to figure something then, but that can be the joke. We'll have to figure out how to work the joke in there. XQs. I used to believe the I used to believe that the Q meant uh Q factors until, Verde told me otherwise. That's the XQs that I used to use. Okay, we'll just call that a joke. May not be a funny one, but it can be the joke of the video. Maybe I'll polish that and make it, run a little faster. Give it Polish its wheels and make it run a little faster. I'll give it some more horsepower. Okay, so frequency is peak to peak measurement in kilometers. Right? That's what this measurement is. This is not a hertz number. This is kilometers for frequency. Standard radio waves, how they measure it. Quality of the waves and frequency is measuring those. Right? Quality is the waves itself. The magnetics, the picotesla, and the frequency is the distance and the peaks. Again, it's all by the different modes, and I've shown you earlier what the modes were. All right. Amplitude is the electric side, which is charge, right? Plus and negative, positive and negative, plus and minus, positive and negative. The magnetics, on the other hand, are a current, which is north to south. Okay, so the magnetics have more to do, I think, with the pole shifting than the amplitude does, because the amplitude can move from the ground upwards. Just for those of you who are following along with the pole shift and all of that, I think you're bound to see more. I just It's kind of what I'm suspecting, what I'm kind of believing, punch that as the poles are shifting, it's going to make more difference in the magnetics than it is in the electrics and the amplitude. And furthermore, amplitude spikes are not necessarily an indication of that. Anyway, all right. So onward and upward. All right. So magnetics are current, which is north to south or east to west. It doesn't tell you here if it's north to south or east to west. It's just magnetics moving past it. All right. So you can see something interesting going on here. All right. So as again, an example of scaled down, scaled. We talk about, the peaks have gone away, and so this was what we would consider the flat line activity over on the other side. You see that? I put it right there. This is pound for pound where that starts out. Right there, exactly, right there where this starts is at the first, or not the first, it's at zero. So that's midnight here, and that's midnight there. All right. So you see a little tiny spike there, a little tiny peak, little, like magnified. You can see that. All right. So I just want to put that up next to it. And then it's the same thing. All these other ones here. All right. So you see the 24th here. All right. So this is, all right. So I think this gives you a better idea. Right. So the 20, this right here, we're at that line. That's at the next day. So the 23rd and the 24th break there. All right. So you see all of this from this point forward is that. All right. So you see all these spikes here. Then you see this right here. All right. And it might be interesting. I think what I might do is make two side by side comparison of that. But I think you can see the difference in the spikes, how uh, once you see it up close, like it's just the scaling. This is just, I want to give you a visual representation of the scale, difference in scale based on the peaks and how everything is scaled out. So that when they say, oh, it's off the chart, it's like, man, it's just peaking to the edge of the chart. It's not peaking off the chart, you idiot. Maybe you won't say idiot. You can leave that for me. I'll say that. But anyway, so I want to give you that visual aid so you can see that. There, it's the fine print, as it were, so you can see that. And so this is the 24th till the 24th to the 26th. You have this rare, interesting chance to get to see it's essentially a flat line up close. And so you see it's not necessarily a flat line. It just appears that way relative to the scaling that they use. I think that's the best way to put it. All right, so the spikes are all scaled to fit. I'm reading the spikes are all scaled to fit in to the available space of the hardware itself. This is a hugely difficult concept for people to realize looking at the spectrogram, observing the spikes. All right, so I'm putting them next to each other so you see, so there's a comparison. All right. Amplitude number is the first panel, right? So I'm showing you right there in the mid center. This is decibels, not frequency, in hertz. Decibels are intensity or a power rating of the free floating electrons in the air. Okay, and again, this is the lightning discharge, primarily caused by lightning discharge uh, down to up, sky to earth, or earth to sky. And there, if you also have spherics, which are sprites and elves and that stuff, right? That you will get ripples in the Schumann resonances as well. Um, so simply because there's a spike, it does not necessarily mean that it's a strong spike, FYI. All right. So depending on how far away it came from, right? If it's local, it will appear to be strong just because of its proximity, right? That's generally speaking, that's part of the disclaimer, you know. So you have to look at, right? So just looking at the spike on the spectrogram itself doesn't necessarily mean, you see, oh, it's a big spike. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a high value, number value spike, right? Because they're all scaled to fit in. So no matter what the highest number is, it's scaled to fit into the available size of the spectrogram. All right. So you have to look at the actual numbers, which are found, right? This over here, you have to, which are found over there to the left, and over on the right hand side as well, all the way over on the left and way over on the right. At which are found on the dependency reports, and not look at the side of the spectrogram, which is giving you the manufactured hertz number of the resonances, not the that's not the amplitude, comma, the number on the side of the spectrogram. The amplitude reading will affect. Okay, and so I was mentioning this earlier. So that this white, I was talking about it in my introduction, which might seem to have been kind of, far flung it off. But this is what we're talking about. The white here, okay, this is high electric floating around in the atmosphere. Okay, so that white amplitude reading will affect the thinking, heart rate perhaps, nervousness, anxiety, perhaps give you excess headache, vertigo, maybe nausea, set your head on fire, right? Just because it's an excess of electricity, electron side, the positive voltage that is in the atmosphere that is at head level. Right? So it's affecting you in a way that you don't know how to deal with because you're not grounding yourself. So I wanted to show you this and for you to compare because I thought it was interesting. I've done some interesting comparison. I pulled up the image from the next capture so you could see. And like I said, I think maybe I'll put those side by side and have a little visual demonstration of the two because I thought at the time it was fascinating and I might do that. I think so that ends the written script.